Good evening, and welcome to Counterculture with Danielle Gill. The culture's gone crazy, media's gone mad, and reason has become repugnant. Here we focus on facts and how to fight back. Tonight, we'll be discussing the Supreme Court in America, and specifically the perils potentially facing our court leading into the future. Few things are as life-affirming as being attacked by the left. There's no better sign that you are living your life with principles and adhering to an ordered existence based on logic and morality than to find yourself in the sights of the leftist machine. Whether it's a hate mob on Twitter, a cowardly employer, the barrel of an FBI's weapon, the ire of the popular media, or some combination of the above, you can rest easy in the knowledge that you are doing the right thing as long as you discover that the left has decided to attack you. Think about it. If you were a doctor who got fired for warning against the COVID vaccine, a researcher warning about election fraud, or a whistleblower leaking the truth about the government, chances are you have gone through a lot of pain and suffering at the hands of the radical left. But at about this point in time, you've been vindicated many times over. You may still be in jail, you may be jobless, you may be paying extra for home security, but in the grand scheme of things, you did what was right when others, perhaps people more influential, capable, or wealthy than you, shrank back in fear. In this respect, being attacked by the left is a badge of honor that few even dare aspire to. But all people of goodwill and deep faith admire. There's an almost supernatural characteristic to the left's ability to pick out its targets. They are no respecter of persons. You could be a random self-employed baker, an opera singer, an athlete, a soldier, a politician, or even a Supreme Court justice. Or how about 2 Supreme Court justices? Because that's who's on the menu of the left's next targets, Justice Clarence Thomas and Justice Samuel Alito. The left is going after them hard, but it's not working. Mind you, Clarence Thomas has always been something of a favorite target of the left. His confirmation hearings are legendary even compared to what Kavanaugh went through. In what now comes across as an all-too-familiar modus operandi, Thomas was blindsided by an unsubstantiated FBI report that was leaked through NPR. He had to defend himself from paper-thin allegations of harassment that included no report of actual physical contact or even explicitly sexual remarks. Thankfully, saner heads prevailed, and Thomas succeeded in securing his position on the highest court of the land. And in response, he thoroughly denounced the left's process as a racially motivated, high-tech lynching. Justice Alito also had some flack during his confirmation. He was one of only 3 candidates for Supreme Court who was formally opposed by the ACLU. The organization felt Alito wouldn't work to defend civil rights, despite also grudgingly acknowledging that Alito did in fact vote in favor of the ACLU on 2 occasions. According to the ACLU, quote, "The ACLU has been directly involved in 3 Establishment Clause cases before Judge Alito, 1 involving graduation prayers and 2 involving holiday displays, and lost Judge Alito's vote in all 3. Conversely, he voted with the ACLU when it brought a First Amendment challenge to a Pennsylvania law barring university newspapers from accepting paid liquor advertisements, and when it supported the free exercise rights of Muslim police officers," end quote. Keep in mind that when the ACLU references the Establishment Clause, they're referring to their favorite cudgel to use against any public display of religion. So when Alito ruled against the ACLU, he was actually upholding civil liberties. The only reason Alito sided with the ACLU in those other cases is because it was one of those rare cases when the organization argued for protecting civil rights. In other words, Justice Alito was more consistent in his support of civil rights than the ACLU itself. And for that, he earned the hatred of the group. No good deed does go unpunished, I guess. But these days, the 2 justices are once again in the crosshairs of the left, and the reasoning is just as flimsy as history would have us believe. Originally, we had the ProPublica report on Justice Thomas's relationship with billionaire Harlan Crow. The friendship between the 2 has included a number of trips on Crow's jet and yacht, and 1 real estate investment where Thomas sold an old house and some empty lots to the billionaire. And in exchange, Thomas used his leverage on the Supreme Court to do exactly what? Well, nothing actually. Very much unlike Biden, whose quid pro quo always comes with something in exchange, and usually at the expense of the well-being of the American taxpayer, this is not the case for Clarence Thomas. The ProPublica report, for all its bluster, does little more than detail the scandalous scenario that Justice Thomas is not friendless. Big shock there, and he conducts his own business. These are neither crimes nor breaches in official rules of ethics for Supreme Court justices. In other words, they aren't even violations, and it could very well be the case that every other justice on the Supreme Court has similar dealings and similar arrangements with their friends. According to Politico, for example, Justice Gorsuch also failed to disclose the sale of a piece of real estate he had a stake in. Okay. Ketanji Brown Jackson, the first ever woman who doesn't know what a woman is to serve on the Supreme Court, has recently netted a book deal. Although, why someone would want to know the thoughts of someone who so clearly is incapable of understanding gender is anyone's guess. Unfortunately, the details of that book deal won't be revealed until next year, but if it's anything like one of Sotomayor's book deals, she's likely already received her first $1 million bonus. This on top of the $6,000 dress and a $1,000 floral arrangement from Oprah Winfrey. Although, to be fair, if the flowers came with a card that had a definition for the word woman, its value would be priceless to her. This financial scrutiny is meant to unnerve Thomas, whose wife Ginny has been under fire for being one of the handful of people in D.C. impervious to the media lies about January 6th. But this is how leftists operate. Strain like Hercules at his labors to paint some mundane fact as an overblown crisis in the hopes that it will prove useful for doing something unconstitutional and damaging to our country. And they hope everyone freaks out about all of this, but it's really not even newsworthy. Like expanding the Supreme Court, for example. In the meantime, actual high crimes by the most powerful establishment figures in D.C. are going uninvestigated and unpunished. More recently, the media has been trying to make a big deal about the fact that Justices Thomas and Alito requested and received extensions for compiling their financial disclosures. It's not shocking that these are busy people. We all file tax extensions, people. Anyways, so extensions. That is our new crisis. No doubt now that ProPublica has decided that not violating reporting requirements is now somehow some sort of a scandal. The two justices are preparing to file hyper-candid reports. The left will do anything for a media story. To earn their approval is the greatest mark of shame you could confer on a fellow human being. It's like earning Employee of the Month at some kind of leftist indoctrination camp. Conversely, to stand against them is to embody the noble virtues of selflessness and courage. We should all work to follow the example of people like Alito and Thomas when under fire. Though they are beset by fools, it's because they have the courage to do good in the sight of this evil society.